I made my husband believe he was a father for 10 years while knowing the truth. When my affair partner returned, I chose him. I divorced my husband, married the man who'd left me pregnant and alone, and forced my son to forget the only dad he'd ever known. "He's your real father now," I said. My son was 10 years old. 18 months later, my affair partner abandoned us again. My son looked at me and said, "You are not my mother. You're just the person who gave birth to me." He ran away to find his real dad. Not the one who made him. The one who raised him. He's 17 now. Happy. Thriving. Without me. I chose the fantasy twice. Now I live in the reality forever. I made my husband raise another man's child for 10 years. I need you to understand exactly what that means. For a decade, I watched a good man wake up early to make breakfast for a boy who wasn't his. I watched him coach little league games, help with homework, stay up all night when the fevers hit. I watched him fall in love with a child he believed was his own flesh and blood. And I knew. Every single day, I knew. I knew because I'd been sleeping with someone else when that child was conceived. I knew because the timeline didn't add up and I'd done the math 100 times. I knew because when my son smiled, I saw another man's face looking back at me. I said nothing. For 10 years, I let my husband build his entire identity around being a father to a son who wasn't his. And when the biological father came back, I threw my husband away like garbage and expected my son to do the same. I'm writing this at 4 a.m. because I have nowhere else to go. My second marriage lasted 18 months before he abandoned me again. My son, the boy I destroyed 2 families for, refuses to speak to me. My first husband, the man who deserved none of this, has moved on with someone who actually loves him. And I'm here. Alone. Exactly where I belong. My name doesn't matter. I'm 43 years old. I've been married twice, both times to the wrong person for the wrong reasons. I have one son who wants nothing to do with me. I did this. All of it. Let me tell you how I became this person. I married David when I was 25. He was everything I was supposed to want. Stable job, kind heart, family-oriented. Our parents were thrilled. Our wedding was beautiful. Everyone said we were perfect together. We weren't. David was good. Too good. So good that being with him felt like living in a museum. Everything was careful, considered, correct. He never raised his voice. Never took risks. Never made me feel anything but comfortable. I was 25 years old and already bored with my life. That's not an excuse. There is no excuse. I'm just telling you where my head was when I made the choice that destroyed everything. His name was Marcus. I met him at a work conference 2 years into my marriage. He was the opposite of David in every way. Reckless, charming, exciting. He looked at me like I was something to be consumed, not protected. I should have run. Instead, I leaned in. The affair started with texts. Then calls. Then hotel rooms during business trips that David never questioned because why would he? His wife would never lie to him. His wife was good. His wife was a monster pretending to be good. The affair lasted 8 months before I found out I was pregnant. I knew immediately that it wasn't David's. The timing. The circumstances. I'd barely been sleeping with my husband during those months because I was so consumed with Marcus. I did the math over and over, hoping I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. I told Marcus first. I don't know what I thought. That he'd step up. That he'd leave his girlfriend and choose me. That the pregnancy would be the push we needed to be together for real. He laughed. Actually laughed. "That's not my problem," he said. "You're married. Tell your husband it's his." But it's not his. Does he know that? I couldn't speak. Look, we had fun. But I'm not looking for a family. If you want to keep it, that's on you. But don't expect me to be part of it. He blocked my number that night. I cried for 3 days. Then I made a decision that would ruin everyone's lives. I told David the first was pregnant. The joy on his face. The tears. The way he picked me up and spun me around and said this was the happiest day of his life. The way he immediately started talking about nursery colors and baby names and how he couldn't wait to be a dad. I smiled and played along. I told myself I was doing the right thing. Marcus didn't want this baby. David did. David would be a good father. Better than Marcus ever could be. Wasn't it better for the child to be raised by someone who actually wanted him? I was a coward disguising selfishness as sacrifice. The pregnancy was hard. Not physically. Emotionally. Every ultrasound, every kick, every moment David put his hand on my belly and talked to his son. I knew I was building a lie that would eventually collapse. But I kept building. My son was born on a Tuesday morning. David cut the cord. David held him first. David cried and said he was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. I looked at my baby and saw Marcus's eyes staring back at me. We named him Ethan. David's choice. After his grandfather. For 10 years, I watched David be the father Marcus refused to be. He was incredible. Patient, loving, present. He never missed a single event. Never raised his voice in anger. Never made Ethan feel anything but completely loved and wanted. Ethan worshipped him. Daddy was his first word. David framed the video. Showed it to everyone. Cried every time he watched it. And I knew. I knew and I said nothing. Sometimes I'd look at them together and almost forget. Almost convince myself that love made David his real father. That biology didn't matter. That the lie was worth it because look at how happy they were. Then I'd see Marcus's features in my son's face and the guilt would crush me all over again. I lived with that guilt for 10 years. Then Marcus came back. I was at a coffee shop when I saw him. Same confident walk. Same dangerous smile. 10 years older but somehow even more magnetic than before. He recognized me immediately. Well, look who it is. I should have walked away. Should have ignored him. Should have remembered everything he'd done and everything I'd built since. Instead, I sat down. We talked for 2 hours. He'd been living overseas. Building businesses. Making money. Never settled down because he wasn't the settling type. I think about you sometimes, he said. About what could have been. You blocked my number when I told you I was pregnant. I was young. Scared. I handled it wrong. He reached across the table and touched my hand. I've changed. He hadn't changed. I know that now. But in that moment, sitting across from the man who'd broken my heart a decade ago, I believed every word. The affair restarted that same week. Within a month, I was meeting Marcus in hotel rooms again, lying to David again, living a double life again. History doesn't repeat. It echoes. And I was too stupid to hear it. 3 months into the affair, Marcus made an announcement. I want to be with you. For real this time. What? Leave David. Marry me. I want to be a family. You, me, and our son. Our son. He'd never called Ethan that before. Not once in 10 years. Why now? Because I'm ready. Because I wasted 10 years running from the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I want to be a father to my boy. I believed him. God help me, I believed him. I went home that night and told David the first wanted a divorce. The confusion on his face. The pain. The complete blindsiding of a man who thought his marriage was fine. What? Why? I don't understand. I'm not happy, David. Since when? We were just talking about taking Ethan to Disney next summer. We were planning his birthday party. When did you become unhappy? I've been unhappy for a while. Is there someone else? I should have told him the truth. All of it. The affair. Marcus. The fact that Ethan wasn't his son. Instead, I said, this isn't about anyone else. This is about us not working anymore. Another lie. Added to the pile. David fought for our marriage. Suggested counseling. Asked what he could do differently. Begged me to give him a chance to fix whatever was broken. I refused. Because Marcus was waiting. Because I'd already made my choice. Because I was so desperate to be with the man who'd abandoned me that I was willing to destroy the man who'd stayed. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. David was devastated, but his primary concern was Ethan. I want joint custody, he said. I want to be in my son's life every single day. Of course. He needs his father. I said that. I called David Ethan's father. While knowing I was about to rip that title away from him forever. 2 weeks after the divorce was final, I married Marcus. Ethan was confused. He'd watched his parents' marriage dissolve, watched his father move into an apartment across town, watched his mother start dating a man he'd never met. Who is this guy? He asked me before the wedding. Someone very special. Someone who's going to be part of our family. I don't want a new family. I want Dad. David will always be in your life, sweetie. But Marcus is going to be your stepfather now. I need you to be respectful. Ethan agreed because he was 10 years old, and what choice did he have? The wedding was small. Just us and a few friends. Ethan stood there in his little suit, looking lost and confused while I married a man he barely knew. That night, after the ceremony, Marcus sat Ethan down. I need to tell you something, buddy. Something important. I should have stopped him. I should have known what was coming. I'm not your stepfather. I'm your real father. Ethan looked at me. What? It's true, I said. Marcus is your biological father. David? David isn't related to you by blood. The look on my son's face. 10 years old. Just found out his entire life was a lie. That the man he called dad wasn't his dad. That his mother had been keeping this secret his whole life. That's not true, he said. Dad is my dad. You're lying. I'm not lying, sweetheart. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, but... No. He was crying now. Dad is my dad. I don't care about blood. He's my dad. Marcus tried to touch his shoulder. Ethan pulled away like he'd been burned. Don't touch me. I don't know you. I want my dad. I want my real dad. He ran to his room and slammed the door. I let him cry himself to sleep. I told myself he'd adjust. Kids are resilient. He'd learn to love Marcus. He'd understand eventually why I did what I did. I was wrong about everything. The next morning, Ethan asked to call David. I want to see him. I want to talk to him. That's not a good idea right now, sweetie. You need time to process. I don't need time. I need my dad. Marcus stepped in. Hey, buddy. I know this is hard. But I'm your dad now. The real one. David was just filling in. But I'm here now. You don't need him anymore. The hatred in my son's eyes. I'd never seen Ethan look at anyone like that. He's not filling in. He's my dad. He taught me to ride a bike. He stayed up with me when I was sick. He comes to all my games. What have you ever done? I'm trying to make up for lost time. I don't want you to make up for anything. I want you to leave me alone. He called David anyway. Borrowed a friend's phone at school. David came to pick him up that afternoon. I found out when the school called to tell me Ethan had left with his father. I was furious. Not at David for taking him. At Ethan for going behind my back. That's how twisted I'd become. My son was desperately clinging to the only father he'd ever known, and I saw it as defiance. When David brought him back that evening, I confronted him on the porch. You can't just take him without telling me. He called me crying. He said you told him I'm not his real father. Because you're not. David's face went white. What? Ethan isn't yours, David. Biologically. I was having an affair when I got pregnant. Marcus is his father. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I've ever heard. 10 years, David finally said. 10 years, and you never told me. I didn't know how. You let me raise him. You let me love him. You let me build my entire life around being his father. And he was never mine? He was yours in every way that mattered. Don't. His voice cracked. Don't you dare try to make this okay. You lied to me for a decade. You stole 10 years of my life? And now you're marrying the man you cheated with and telling me I'm not his real father? David, I'm sorry. Sorry? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're not sorry. You're just moving on to the next chapter and expecting everyone to follow along. He looked past me into the house where Ethan was watching from the window. I love that boy. I'll always love him. He's my son, no matter what any DNA test says. Actually, I need you to step back. David stared at me. What? Marcus wants to be Ethan's father now. The real one. It's confusing for Ethan to have two dads. I think it's best if you take some space. You want me to abandon my son? He's not your son. I raised him. I was there for every moment. Where was Marcus? Where was he when Ethan had pneumonia at 3 years old? Where was he for the first day of school? The nightmares? The skinned knees? He's here now. That's what matters. David looked at me like I was a stranger. Like he was seeing me clearly for the first time in 15 years. You're going to destroy that boy, he said. And when you do, don't come looking for me to fix it. He left. I told Ethan that David wouldn't be coming around anymore. Why not? Because Marcus is your father now. It's confusing to have two dads. David understands that you need space to bond with Marcus. I don't want to bond with Marcus. I want Dad. David isn't your dad. I know it's hard to accept, but... Stop saying that. He ran to his room. Again. Over the next few weeks, I enforced the boundary. When David texted Ethan, I deleted the messages. When David tried to call, I blocked the number. When Ethan begged to see him, I said no. I was erasing the only father my son had ever known. Because Marcus asked me to. Because I thought it would help Ethan adjust. Because I was so desperate to make my new marriage work that I sacrificed my child on the altar of my own choices. Ethan stopped talking to me after the first month. Not dramatically. Not with screaming or fights. He just withdrew. He'd answer questions with one word. He'd eat dinner in silence. He'd go to his room and stay there for hours. Marcus tried to connect with him. Suggested fishing trips, video games, movies. Ethan refused everything. He just needs time, Marcus kept saying. Once he realizes I'm here to stay, he'll come around. Marcus wasn't there to stay. 6 months into our marriage, I found texts on his phone. Another woman. Different city. Same old Marcus. I confronted him. He didn't even deny it. This isn't working out, he said, like he was returning a defective product. The kid hates me. You're always stressed. It's not what I signed up for. You signed up to be a family. You said you wanted this. I thought I did. Turns out I was wrong. He packed a bag and left that night. For the second time in my life, Marcus abandoned me. But this time, he didn't just leave me. He left the son he'd spent 6 months demanding Ethan accept as his real father. When I told Ethan that Marcus was gone, he didn't react. No surprise. No sadness. No relief. Just emptiness. Can I see Dad now? He asked quietly. Dad. David. The man I'd erased from his life for a man who'd just proven, again, that he was never worth anything. I don't know if that's a good idea right now. Why? Marcus is gone. Why can't I see my dad? Because I'd forced David to go no contact. Because I told him to stay away. Because I'd burned that bridge so thoroughly I didn't know if it could ever be rebuilt. I'll figure something out, I said. I never did. I tried to reach David. 47 texts. 23 calls. Emails, letters, messages through mutual friends. He responded once. You told me to stay away from my son. You blocked my number on his phone. You erased me from his life because Marcus wanted to play dad. Now Marcus is gone and suddenly you need me again? No. You made this choice. You live with it. He wasn't wrong. I'd used David when I needed him and discarded him when I didn't. I'd treated him like a placeholder, a stand-in, a tool to be picked up and put down at my convenience. Of course he wouldn't come running back. Ethan found out I'd been trying to reach David. He'd overheard a phone call. You're asking him to come back? After you made him leave? I thought it was best at the time. Best for who? Not for me. Not for Dad. Just for you and Marcus. He shook his head. You always do what's best for you. That's not fair. It's exactly fair. You lied to Dad for 10 years. You made him raise me thinking I was his. Then you dumped him for my real father who didn't even want me. You made Dad go away. And now that Marcus is gone, you want Dad back? I had no defense. I'm sorry, Ethan. You're always sorry. It doesn't mean anything anymore. He was 11 years old. 11 years old and already understood that my apologies were worthless. The next 2 years were a slow-motion collapse. Ethan stopped trying to connect with me. He did his homework. He went to school. He came home. He existed in my house like a ghost. I tried everything. Family therapy. Special outings. Heart-to-heart conversations that went nowhere. Nothing worked. Because the one thing he wanted was the one thing I'd taken away. His father. David moved on. I found out through mutual friends that he'd started dating someone. A woman named Rebecca. A teacher. Kind, stable, everything I wasn't. 6 months later, they were engaged. A year after that, married. David had rebuilt his life without me. Without Ethan. Not because he didn't love Ethan. Because I'd made it impossible for him to stay. When Ethan found out David had remarried, something shifted. The emptiness became anger. He replaced me, Ethan said. He didn't replace you, sweetie. He just moved on. Because you made him. You told him to leave me alone. You took away my dad and now he has a new family? I never wanted this to happen. But it did. Because of you. He looked at me with eyes that held no love. Only blame. Everything bad in my life is because of you. I couldn't argue. Because he was right. The rebellion started at 13. Ethan stopped going to school. Started staying out late. Started hanging around kids I didn't know. I'd find cigarettes in his room. Alcohol. Once, something I couldn't identify that scared me enough to flush it down the toilet. I tried to discipline him. Ground him. Take away privileges. He'd laugh. What are you going to do? Take away my phone? My computer? Go ahead. You already took away the only thing that mattered. Every punishment bounced off him because he had nothing left to lose. I'd already taken the only thing he cared about. His father. When Ethan was 14, he ran away. I woke up on a Saturday morning and he was gone. No note. No message. Just an empty room and an open window. I called the police. Filed a missing persons report. Spent 2 days in a panic, imagining the worst. They found him at David's house. 2 states away. He'd taken a bus, then hitchhiked. 14 years old, traveling alone for 18 hours, just to see the man I'd made him forget. The police called me to come get him. I drove 8 hours, rehearsing what I'd say. How I'd explain that what I did was wrong. How I'd promised to let David back into his life. How I'd finally put my son first. When I arrived, Ethan was sitting on David's porch with Rebecca. He looked peaceful. For the first time in years. David came out when he saw my car. He showed up yesterday morning, David said. He was exhausted. Hungry. But okay. Thank you for calling the police. I was so worried. I didn't call them. Rebecca did. If it were up to me. He stopped himself. Never mind. David, I know I don't deserve anything from you. But Ethan needs his father. He needs you. I know. I've always known. You're the one who didn't. Ethan stood up when he saw me approach. I'm not going back with you. Ethan, you have to. I'm your mother. You're the person who gave birth to me. That's not the same thing. He looked at David. Dad said I can live with him. He and Rebecca talked about it. I turned to David. You can't just take my son. I'm not taking him. He came to me. And I'm not going to turn him away. Not again. I'll get lawyers. I'll fight for custody. Go ahead. David's voice was tired. Fight for a son who hates you. Drag him through court. Force him to live with you against his will. See how that works out. Ethan stepped forward. I'm 14, Mom. In 2 years I can legally choose where I live. If you make me come back, I'll leave again. And again. And again. Until I'm 18 and you can't stop me. He was so calm. So certain. So done with me. Why? I whispered. Why do you hate me so much? Because you're a liar. You lied to Dad for 10 years. You lied to me my whole life. You made me think Marcus was going to be my father and then he left. You took away the only dad I ever had. And you did it all for yourself. Every single choice you made was about you. Never about me. Never about Dad. Just you. I wanted to argue. Wanted to explain. Wanted to make him understand that I'd been confused, scared, trying to do what I thought was best. But none of that was true. I'd known what I was doing. Every step of the way. I just didn't care enough to stop. I let him stay with David. Not because I was being generous. Because he was right. If I forced him to come home, he'd run again. And again. Until there was nothing left of our relationship at all. At least this way, I could pretend I was giving him what he wanted. The truth was, I was losing him no matter what. David filed for custody a month later. Given Ethan's age, his clear preference, and the documented history of my choices, the judge didn't hesitate. Full custody to David. I got visitation rights. Every other weekend. Ethan has never once used them. It's been 3 years since he moved in with David. He's 17 now. A junior in high school. He plays basketball. Has a girlfriend. Is applying to colleges. I know all of this because I stalk his social media. Because David occasionally sends me updates out of what I can only assume is pity. Ethan doesn't send me anything. On his 16th birthday, I sent a gift. A watch he'd mentioned wanting once, years ago. It came back unopened. On his 17th birthday, I sent a card. Just a card. I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry. It came back too. My son has built a wall so high I can't see over it. And I handed him every brick. I ran into Rebecca at a grocery store 6 months ago. I didn't know what to say. This woman had stepped into the role I'd abandoned. She was raising my son. Attending his games. Helping him with college applications. She was being his mother because I'd made it impossible to be mine. He's doing well, she said, because she's kind and I'm not. He's happy. Does he ever talk about me? She hesitated. Sometimes. Not often. What does he say? He says he wishes things had been different. That you'd made different choices. That you'd been the mother he needed instead of the one you were. I started crying in the middle of the produce section. Rebecca touched my arm. He doesn't hate you. Not anymore. He's worked through a lot of it in therapy. But he's not ready to forgive. And he may never be. I know. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't help. But I am. She walked away. And I stood there among the apples and oranges, crying for a son who's learned to live without me. I tried to contact Marcus once, after everything fell apart. I wanted to scream at him. Blame him. Make him understand that his reappearance had destroyed everything. He didn't respond. Of course he didn't. He was already on to the next woman, the next adventure, the next mess he'd leave for someone else to clean up. Marcus was never going to be a father. I knew that when he abandoned me the first time. I knew it when he came back and promised he'd changed. I just didn't want to believe it. So I sacrificed my husband and my son for a fantasy that was never real. It's Mother's Day today. That's why I'm writing this. I used to get handmade cards and breakfast in bed. David would wake up early with Ethan to make pancakes. They'd bring me coffee and flowers and tell me I was the best mom in the world. I wasn't. Even then, I wasn't. But I had the chance to be. And I threw it away for a man who texted me once in 3 years. Last Christmas. Hope you're doing well. Like we were old colleagues instead of people who destroyed a family together. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Ethan is graduating next year. I've thought about reaching out. Asking if I can come. Promising to sit in the back, to not make a scene, to just be there. But I know what the answer will be. No. And he'd be right to say it. Some consequences are permanent. If you're reading this and you're keeping a secret like I kept. If you're raising a child with someone who doesn't know the truth. If you're protecting a lie because the truth seems too hard. Stop. Stop right now. Because the truth always comes out. And when it does, it doesn't just destroy you. It destroys everyone who trusted you. Everyone who loved you. Everyone who built their life on a foundation you knew was fake. David didn't deserve any of this. He was a good man who loved me and loved the son he thought was his. I repaid him with a decade of lies and then discarded him when someone better came along. Ethan didn't deserve any of this. He was an innocent child who grew up loved, then found out his entire life was built on betrayal. I tore away the only father he knew and expected him to accept a stranger in his place. They were collateral damage in my selfishness. And I will spend the rest of my life watching from the outside while they build happiness without me. I had a husband who loved me. I had a son who trusted me. I had a family. And I destroyed all of it because I couldn't resist a man who never loved me at all. Marcus was the fantasy. David was the reality. I chose the fantasy. Twice. And now reality is an empty house on Mother's Day, scrolling through photos of a son who forgot I exist, wondering if I'll die before he decides to forgive me. I probably will. And I'll deserve that too. The lies you tell to protect yourself don't protect anyone. They just delay the destruction. And when the truth finally explodes, and it always does, the people caught in the blast are the ones who loved you most. I loved David in my way. I loved Ethan in my way. But I loved myself more. And my son learned that lesson so well that he applied it perfectly. He loved himself more than he loved me. He chose himself. Just like I taught him. I just never imagined I'd be on the other side of that lesson.